Hello, hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Debut Album January. Now, some people might wonder what exactly you would consider a debut album. Now, for the most part, a debut album by a band is just the first album with that band name, even if the band went through many different lineup changes over the years. But then some people would say that it's the first album that really nails their sound. Some people would say that Genesis's debut album is Trespass, even though they put out an album called From Genesis to Revelation before that. But for the sake of this series, it's just going to be the first album under the band name. And speaking of first albums, the first album we're going to look at in this series is The Doors' debut album. The Doors' self-titled debut album. And it's a fantastic album. It truly is. It's almost prog. It's what I call proto-prog, which stands for prototype progressive rock. And it's a truly wonderful listen. It starts off with a song that I'm sure you all know, even if you have had no, interest in music made before '99, but your parents have. I'm sure that you've heard, Break On Through to the Other Side. It's a classic piece of 60s rock with an iconic bass riff, and Ray Manzarek absolutely fucking tears it up on the fucking organ. It's just a truly excellent organ solo, and it does the keys really do like I call it the Emerson, Lake and Palmer thing, where keys a lot of the time go where a guitar would typically go if this was any other band. But this is not just any other band. This is the fucking Doors. Alright? Soul Kitchen, song 2. You don't know the lyrics or the title, but you do know the song, and it really shows Jim Morrison's vocal chops. It's the song that goes bump, bip, boop, biddle-lip, boop, beep, boop, biddle-lip. You'll, if you have a good ear, I'm sure you'll be able to, remember what I'm talking about. It's great. It's a great song. The Crystal Ship, it's similar to the last couple, the last two songs, except this one's a bit jazzier, and it's a bit jazzier than the rest of the album. It's alright. I don't have all that much to say about it. The song itself doesn't have all that much to say either, because it's not all that long. It's like 2.5 minutes. So it's just kind of there. 20th Century Fox, this is Soul Kitchen Part 2, except the lyrics are about a woman and finding her attractive. That's what it is. It's not like a sexual thing. It's just like, hey, I find this lady attractive. She's a 20th Century Fox. Because calling a woman a fox was kind of a thing in the 60s. Jimi Hendrix has that song, Foxy Lady. Alabama's song, which is also known as Whiskey Bar. It's a cover of a waltz from the 30s, I want to say, except it has that signature Doors flavor. It's alright. And then we come to Light My Fire, which is basically the Doors' signature song. It was while they were still an active entity. If you went to a Doors concert and you didn't hear this song, you would be pissed off. And it's a 7-minute piece of proto-prog excellent. Ray Manzarek tears it up with an organ solo. That's most of the song. And Robbie Krieger, who did not use a guitar pick, by the way. He did it totally fingerstyle. Robbie Krieger fucking tears it up with a guitar solo. It's a rare solo from him, and it's a very good one. Of course, it's not as good as something as David Gilmour would do, and it's, not as good as stuff we would hear later on. It's not even, I don't really feel it's as good as some stuff we're going to talk about later on in this very series, and most likely not this year, but it's, it's a good solo. It's a good fucking solo. And it's great. Backdoor Man is the energy of the previous song, but it's only half the length. It's 3.5 minutes. So it's not super long, but it's not super short either. I Looked at You. This is probably the worst song on the album, but it's fine. Again, this album came out in 1967. January of 67, actually. So, just just a touch under 60 years ago, uh, as we're talking about this, as I sit here talking about it now. And it's truly, truly, it's not a bad song. Again, this is 67, so, even, the bad songs on an album at the time were still decent. Like, you wouldn't be like, fuck, if it came on the radio. Now, the people at the time would be, but if this came on the radio, I'd be like, oh, that's neat. That's actually something kind of fucking obscure. But again, probably the worst song on the album, but it's not bad. End of the Night, it's, again, 3 minutes of proto-prog. It's, it's fucking weird. It's truly one of those songs that you have to listen to. Like, I can't just describe it here. Like, you have to go and listen to it. And I prefer that you listen to these albums before I talk about them. Because I don't, play music samples. These are unedited. This is essentially just my schizophrenic ramblings to a fucking cell phone in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. But... but it's, it's a nice song. It's awesome. Take It As It Comes. It sounds like the rest of the album. But it does have a bitch and organ solo. And then the 11th and final song on the album, 12 minutes of proto-prog excellence, a borderline indescribable experience. It is the end. It's so good, and I can't describe it here. There's so many famous portions to this song, like the one where Jim Morrison goes, "The killer awoke before dawn. He put his boots on. He grabbed a vase from the ancient gallery," and like the whole thing, and of course the Oedipus bit, and like all the children are insane, and then it picks up energy at the end. It's just, it's so good, and I implore you, if you listen to any song from this album that I have reviewed here today, definitely give this song a listen. And if you give the entire album, and if you're interested in listening to the whole album, definitely fucking buy it. This is an album that you should buy. Of course, I don't own it, but I have an excuse. I'm limited on funds. If you're not limited on funds, go fucking buy this on vinyl or CD, what have you. Just get a physical copy of it and fucking put it in and jam to it. It's truly great. Now, the Doors would go on to have a fantastic but short career. Depending on who you ask, their final album either came out in 1971 or in 1972. Jim Morrison, obviously, it's like the typical rock star shenanigans, of course, made famous by the Doors movie. If there's anything accurate to Jim Morrison's character in that movie, again, it's an okay movie. If it wasn't about a real person, it would be an okay movie, but, due to the fact that it is about, a real band, it's just it's a little bit disrespectful to Jim Morrison's legacy. But the one aspect of his character that they did get right was his alcohol abuse. It was not good. He would, of course, die in Paris in 1971. The remaining Doors would continue. They would produce 2 albums as a 3-piece after Jim's passing, with the final one coming out in 1972, and then they would reunite about 6 years later in 1978 to record some music to pair with some of Jim Morrison's poetry that he recorded at some point. And I haven't heard that album. I heard it got shit on. I'm going to leave that verdict for when I eventually listen to it. That might be something we look at this year. I don't know. But, the Doors produced, again, 8 albums in the, 67 to 72. The Doors produced 8 albums in 5 years. That is insane. That is an album roughly every 6 or 7 months. That is a crazy amount of material for a band to put out in that short amount of time. It's surprising if a band does that in 20 years nowadays. But, again, Jim Morrison, the tale of him is a little bit tragic. The tale of his girlfriend, of his longtime girlfriend, Pamela Morrison, I guess she called herself, by the end, I forgot her actual last name, but by the end it was just, it's a tragic story. I'm not getting into it here. But for now, I would like to thank you all very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like on it. If you have something to add, please do so in the comments down below. I would love to read it. If you want to continue along my musical journeys with me, please feel free to subscribe. And if you want to hear me talk about something other than music, I have a podcast with two of my buddies. It's called Dorkies. I will leave a link to the most recent episode of that in the description down below. And if you want to hear what I happen to be listening to that day, or a 15-second segment at least, you can follow me on Instagram at Sean_Heaster1979. I post a 15-second segment of a song on my story there every single day. And with that, I would like to thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.